My name is Corinna Harney, Playboy's Playmate of the Year, 1992.
And I'm Echo Johnson, Miss January, 1993. Welcome to the Bunny Chronicles. Let's go.
Take two.
Here we go.
I wanted to just do a shout out to our audience and to our fans. Here we are in 2025. Can't believe it. It has arrived. And our podcast continues to grow around the world. We are so grateful to not only our loyal Playboy fans who have been supporting us for 30 plus years since we were first featured in the magazine, but new audience members and reaching new people that may have not known about a lot of stuff about Playboy and just like the history of Playboy and the empire that it was and the great impact it had on our world and pop culture and whatnot. So with that said, also, we received our stats for the year from Buzzsprout, and we're the top 10% of all podcasts in the world. So that's like really, yay, thank you. Super, super cool. Again, couldn't do it without y'all. So we are just so grateful. We thank you for all of the support, and we ask you just to please continue to follow us, whether you're listening to the audio. And if you are listening to audio, please come check out our YouTube channel, because every interview that we have in the audio format also has a long format video as well. And so you can watch the full video interviews. Please like, subscribe, and follow, obviously.
If it's something you know someone else would appreciate.
Yeah. And definitely share. We also have just reached a couple milestones with YouTube. And so we have the ability now for super thanks. So that's something that our fans can contribute towards as well, or our audience can contribute towards. We are working on a merch line, and the pictures that you see in the back with the different logos, that's just a couple of ideas that we have, but we have literally I think 1,000 different logos and colors, Corinna.
Oh my.
So
I already have a t-shirt, and my husband got a sweatshirt, and everyone loves them wherever we go. I mean, It's a brilliant logo.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So we are diligently working on that, and we're going to get that going, because I just know that people will love it, and the logos are so cool, and the colors, like there's a plethora. So, we'll start small, probably just with hats and like tees, but definitely we'll work on growing that. So that will be another way that you can support the show. Also, we want to do a shout out to, so within our Buzzsprout platform, the analytics are very deep, and we're able to look at who our audience is. And I kid you not, we have listeners in every country in the world. It blows my mind when I look at it. And then there's some countries where there's just like 3 or 4 people listening, but I just want to do a quick shout out, because I was looking at it earlier, and I'm going to go to Morocco. We have 4 listeners in Morocco. Someplace I'd love to go someday, right?
What we should randomly, once we really start monetizing, go and visit our fans in Morocco.
Oh, wouldn't that be so fun if we
take them to
let's pick out a destination and we'll go on a trip. But with that said, this is something that I want to start doing in our shows at the end of the show. Is to just do a shout out to, we're going to randomly choose from the different cities, countries, whatever, wherever we land. So listen to the shows to the end. And if you hear your country, reach out to us on Instagram at Bunny Chronicles Podcast, or on YouTube. All of our contact information is on there. Let us know you're one of the listeners, and we can give you an opportunity to call into one of these shows and ask Corinna and I 2 questions.
I love that. And also, Echo, let's remind the listeners that, especially on YouTube, please leave comments, ask questions, and give us suggestions. If there's anyone that you can think of that you would want on the Bunny Chronicles, let us know. Put your comments in the comments section, and
or any history you'd like to, an era you'd like to know about. If you have particular questions relating to whatever, whether it's, Hef himself or the mansion or whatever else, please do. That's a good point. Thank you, Corinna, for bringing that up. That also helps our algorithm. So the more comments we get, then we can continue to grow. So we just want to do a quick shout out. And just again, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And this has just been a labor of love. And we promise to continue to bring you some really great shows and interviews. And we're going to get into this next one because AJ is in the waiting room. Okay. AJ?
How are you guys?
Hi, Paul. How are you?
We're doing okay. I've just my 3 dogs to interrupt. They'll my 3 golden retrievers will.
Welcome to the show, AJ. I'm so happy to see you. It has been a minute, and what we're about to get into is some of my fondest memories in Playboy was the Playboy Golf tournaments. They were epic. But I want to give our audience a little background on who you are and with Playboy Golf. Hugh Pathak was a president and CEO of Playboy Golf, a partner and licensed entity of Playboy Enterprises from 2000 to 2014. That was a long run. Playboy Golf was created to provide sponsorship and advertising for clients of Playboy Enterprises and to give fans of Playboy the opportunity to tee off at their local golf course and land on the green at the Playboy Mansion. Playboy Golf created an unbeatable combination of golf parties, playmates, celebrities, athletes, and just all around beautiful, fabulous people. The fans of Playboy had an opportunity to be a part of Hef's world and party in their city and at the Playboy Mansion. The Playboy Golf Tour was featured on multiple national and local media outlets, including ESPN.com, Fox Sports Net, the Golf Channel, People OK Magazine, Us Weekly, LA Times, New York Post, Chicago Sun-Times, and it goes on. So welcome to the show, AJ.
Thank you so much. And it's truly a pleasure. One, to see you again, because I remember you were really one of the first ones I met. And I used to remember how you would be whispering in my ear and telling me about everybody. And I used to be like, listen so intently because, okay, she's looking out for me. So it's truly great to see you again and to be part of it. And for any of the Playmates, I would do anything. They're a family to me. And to me, that was the most important thing. That really, if I was to say that if there was something I could to walk away with and cherish forever, it's the fact that I really had a family with all of them and a lot of the Playboy world too. It was a tight family.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually like perfect to say, AJ, because that's what we always come back to in every single interview is that we're all just so blessed to have been a part of Playboy and this incredible extended family that we created. And to this day, we have these incredible relationships with all these people. And I just can't think of another company that had that sort of, cohesion with everybody from Playboy Corporate to, to the staff, to the Playmates, to everything. And so that is a good word, family.
It really, it's a testament to Hef and how that was established because, and I always tried to emulate that there was a caring effort with that. And then, of course there was glitz, glamour and, if you're surrounded, with beautiful women, everyone has their interpretation but all I ever found was that, we had a job to do, but really that established bond, it was to this day, it's still some of the closest friends I have and family and things that, I get to see them. And, that means the world. It really, really does.
I believe that. So tell us like kind of from the beginning. So your background, was it in marketing and sports entertainment, or how did you even come up with this idea and present it to Playboy? What did that look like?
Yeah. When we first started, what had begun to entail in really the late 90s is that, I had started, I had a sports sunscreen company and, my father was a very famous dermatologist. He had created sunscreens at the Mass General Hospital and Harvard Medical School with him, with several other doctors that were there. And one of my partners was the head of Reebok, and he was the head of and he was retiring. And we had this company, and we sold off eventually the licensing rights with a European pharmaceutical firm and so forth and so on. But my partner, Tom, his wife worked at Playboy, and she said to us, "Hey, you guys have established a sports network and marketing in this, that we'd begun to, go with different marketing companies all over the country because of our sunscreen originally. And you need to talk to them about bringing your ability to harness into a more conservative, what's the word I'm looking for? If an audience that Playboy was desiring to have. If you recall, Playboy could get the sin products in their advertising. When I mean sin products, alcohol, tobacco, one of the goals was to try to make it more mainstream, so that, for instance, the tech market was starting to emerge. And how do you access that? Because it was going to be a younger audience, right? And you have to maintain the generations, one after the other. It was always Playboy went from father to son, right? And so part of this was, what could you guys provide to them that might enhance their ability to bring in a much broader scope of advertisers and people that want to get more involved with Playboy? Because you always remember, Playboy was behind the shelf. Like it was in the, and the hard fight was to try to make it more mainstream, and things like the Super Bowl party were part of that way of trying to get that in there too. But the goal was, what can we do to make it more attractive to, some of the larger companies that would tend to shy away? And so initially we were looking at cigarette boat racing and some other things. And, but golf became an avenue that would allow very affluent people the ability to get introduced to the Playboy world, but feel comfortable with it. And so we began to process, and at the time there was a tour called the Oldsmobile Scramble. And the Oldsmobile Scramble was the way Oldsmobiles would bring in people to buy their car at the dealership. And they would have like 300 golf tournaments all across the country. And, you'd go in and you'd form a team, and you ended up, their winning would be, if they were able to continue on and win, they would end up at Disney World. So when we looked at this and we said, well, wait a minute, we're not your father's Oldsmobile anymore. But we're not your father's golf tournament. That's how they used to advertise. So we looked at it and said, we're going to give a sexy, upscale, fun event, and we're going to bring it to everybody. Now, initially, we went through some growing pains, because the one thing that you'll always have with Playboy is people want to see beautiful women. Golf becomes, I don't want to say secondary, because golf is still part of it, but ultimately, if you're going to delineate yourselves from the others, you want to see beautiful women. So instead of 300 events across the country, the vision I had was scale it down to maybe 25 to 30 events in various cities where people might not always get that Playboy world coming to the city. So we brought it to Iowa, and we brought it to all like different cities that might not be, we did it in the bigger ones, New York, LA, Boston, Chicago, and all that. But we also brought it to mid-America and brought it into places normally you would never get to see the Playboy world from where they were. And so that concept really began to take off, because we would bring local celebrities into, and local girls that maybe had an aspiration of becoming what you guys did, that to be found and discovered, and we were an avenue for that. And so we looked at that, which then began to attract sponsors and advertisers to be able to entertain their clientele at an upscale fun event. Because we had no nudity in it. I mean, looking at the mansion, that's a whole nother story. But But during our golf events, if you recall, we had everybody in dresses and outfits and different things that kept it very upscale for a golf course, that you could go to an upscale golf course and not have to worry about it. And
it was a proper golf tournament across the board. Yeah.
And it had the sexy side to it and fun, and people got a little crazy. And of course, every other hole we had alcohol, and we had our alcohol sponsors and fun. But we had all kinds of fun events going on. So there were some guys that never even took their club out of the bag. They just went from hole to hole to meet everybody.
Yeah.
And we had contests with local girls that could have a shot. If they won the best hostess, they were able to win a trip out to our finals event at the Playboy Mansion. So we created, and the judges were the golfers. So everybody had an incentive to talk to everybody else and mix and mingle. And our playmates were all the hostesses. So they just made sure everybody had fun, which they were really good at, and so every single playmate always wanted to work it because they could be themselves. They didn't have to be something they weren't comfortable with. And so everybody would have a great time, and they created friendships for many, many years.
Yeah, it was, it was wild. And to that point, like, yes, everybody was playing a little bit of golf, but there certainly were, teams, that were just like, whatever, like, I'm here for fun. And, each of the playmates was assigned to a team, which was cool. And so you would be with your team the whole day, right? Going around the golf course. And I think it was the very first one that we did, AJ. My team was so fabulous. I wish I could remember their names, but we got so loaded that I ended up falling out of the golf cart and rolling down the hill. And Lacey is like, here, she comes to find me, and she's like, like you're still here to do a job. Okay.
I never drank at the Playboy Golf tournaments. I was probably more serious, but I wish I had dug out photos, because if there's one of all, I think it's you, Naraya, myself.
Yeah,
that's at Corinna, that was one of the very beginning of it, because if Naraya was there, it was like early on in 2001, maybe somewhere in there. Might have been when Kid Rock was there.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
You had us wearing the pink on black and extra tops, and we wore black pants, and that was one of them.
So funny. I used to want the girls to design it so that they could be comfortable in the outfits. And then the whole Playboy marketing team, including Lacey, they'd always want to design the clothes, right? And it'd be this running battle, because the girls wanted it a certain way and they would want it a certain way. And all the time I'd be like, boy, I'm stuck in the middle of this right now. I brought something to show you guys. So I was trying to find, and I had to go through my archives. Can you see this?
Oh, cool.
Do you remember you guys used to sign these?
That makes sense that Lacey would be like, oh, no, I'm going to be in charge of this, because after all, she was the bunny mom, and made sure that your bunny suits were correct and whatnot. So I didn't know that. That totally makes sense.
I think it's so funny, Echo, that you got hammered and would get in so much trouble. So that
all
was
the time
easy, probably, already on the golf course.
Of course, it's sort of I'm not saying encourage it
so much, but I'm sorry, AJ, what?
No, I apologize. I would encourage it, because I wanted them to have fun. See, the one thing I learned, and I think why we were always so successful, is if the playmates were having fun, everybody else had fun. Yeah. Because, the goal was really to make everybody comfortable, and that really, if Hef's idea with that girl next door, like, now you're meeting the person that was in the center of the magazine, like, that every girl dreams and aspires to be, and every guy wants to meet them. But here she is sitting right next to you in a golf cart, and so it was, the whole idea was just to make them feel comfortable and have fun.
The last year I was there, it's when Mark Wahlberg was there, and I like Mark Wahlberg is like my everything, right? So I got wind that he was there, and I left my team, which was, by the way, the most boring team I'd ever been put with. And I was so mad. And I was like, I'm going to go find Mark Wahlberg. So I did. And then sure enough, guess who comes in the golf cart at me? Lacey, going, what the hell are you doing? Get back to your team up. He's like, nope. I was like,
You were like, I'm not listening. That you and Wahlberg, well, he's been there a few times, but when he came, so that show, The Entourage, if you recall, right?
of course, yeah.
With Kevin Dillon and all them. So the guys that played Entourage in the movie, that whole Entourage with Kevin Dillon, and so they were one team. The real Entourage, Mark Wahlberg's original crew, all the real guys were also on a team there. So,
that is so cool.
yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So they had, so we had both ones, the Entourage on the show and the real Entourage.
Yeah, that it was based off of.
Yeah, that it was based on.
Oh, oh my gosh, how wild.
Mark asked if like they could play too. And I said, absolutely, because some of them were from, like, I'm from Boston, and you know, you take care of people from home. But so some of the guys were there, and I said, absolutely, they can play. And so it was the funniest thing. And one day I was giving a lecture somewhere, and I see this guy in this audience, and I'm going, how do I know this guy, right? It was driving me crazy. And he has a smile on him. And I said, excuse me, sir, do we know each other? He goes, I go, you look so familiar. It was the brother of Kevin Dillon was, you know, the guy that Kevin Dillon played. It was his brother. And he knew the whole story I was telling the story to the audience, but they were, he knew the whole story, and it was true. And he got up in front of everybody and said, they're just telling you the truth. The whole entourage was there and back and forth. And he knew it because he was, you know, his brother was in the, you know, it was based on him.
Right. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
How wild.
How legendary.
So what kind of money did that take to do those tournaments? And was it all just sponsorship money that came in that you were able to?
That's a great question. See, one of the things that it was an expensive tournament to run that we did, because
I can imagine
we tried to keep everything upscale, the food, all the things. So generally it was businesses that would play, or a group of affluent guys, because, you know, from a cost of a foursome, if it ranged from $500 a person, tried to get, you know, in smaller cities, it would be less and so forth. But, you know, it was expensive to run. So the way we were able to, you know, profit off of that was really the sponsorships from advertisers and companies that way. That was the really only way you were going to make some money with this, because the overall hard costs of doing it were expensive, you know. And we gave Playboy merchandise away. Like, we had your gift bag that the people got was really a nice gift bag. Whether it was, you know, we had everything from, you know, the golf shirts and, you know, we would have different rabbit head covers and all kinds of things that, you know, they probably, you know, just because we ended up getting quite a number of things, they'd have about $200 in merchandise with them too. So they got quite a bit for what they paid. Okay. And that was subsidized by sponsors. Yeah.
That makes sense. And now when they would go to the mansion, was that just like an annual thing? And like, how were they chosen? So whoever won from each tournament?
So yeah, what we did, and it was sort of funny how we did this, in the sense that we had a semifinals in Las Vegas. So qualifying teams, now all they really got was a discounted rate, because it was so expensive to produce, but those guys didn't care. They just wanted the picture with the girls. That's all they really cared about, you know, to be up there on the podium and then stand there. And so, you know, the Playmates would be around them, and they'd have all the pictures, and they're going to go to their buddies, look what I'm doing, and you're not, you know? So, you know, that's the bravado. And actually, we used to get women who were in sales, and they used to love to come, because that was their best sales day ever. If they brought guys out there on the course, they were guaranteed the sale of, you know, whatever they wanted. So we used to have loyal, faithful women golfers come to our event all the time with teams that they would, you know, they would invite their companies to. And for them, it was the biggest payday for them, because they always made the deal on the golf course. So
that's cool.
the Las Vegas one, now we start ramping up all the, the cost involved and the cost for coming, because now we're starting to produce parties and big events in Vegas. And we would partner with a casino. And then the casino would subsidize, because they'd entertain their high rollers at our event, which is a casino marketing event, which usually if you work with casinos, they're their own best customer, because they're having to entertain those high rollers, which was where the money was at for a long time. And then, Vegas changed with the DJs and the headliners and all that, and that format changed. But for the most part, it was big gamblers that they wanted to get in there. And our event was a great way for them to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Good segue. Interesting. Did you have much contact with Hef? Did you have any sort of relationship with him?
Yeah, well, I would periodically always come to see him, because he would sign things for us for the events. And he did one of the nicest things. He once told me, and I was trying to create the party, because at Hef's parties, you didn't come to his party unless you were invited, right? It was his pride, the ones that everybody heard about, everything from Midsummers to Halloween and all that. That's his personal invite. But when he allowed us to do this, he believed the fact that we could do something that would emulate his party, but then try to bring it to the mainstream, to give an average individual the actual dream of a lifetime, to sort of live his life for one day that way. And so he liked that concept. And, I always tell people that ask me, "Were you friends?" And I go, he's 80 something. He's got his friends. But
yeah.
Was I fortunate enough to sit with him several times? Yes. And I remember, one night, my family would always come, right? And he wanted to meet my mother, because he heard my mother had come up. And so I get a phone call, like, this is after we'd finished the event and everything. And I get a phone call from a friend of mine. He was watching Playboy TV, and he goes, "Hey, your mom's on Playboy TV." Now, that's not really what you want to hear right away, I think sometimes, right? But
my gosh,
yeah,
that's so funny.
Yeah. But do you remember that he used to do the World of Hef, like the where they would show where he would go in LA, and where he did all different things? Well, they showed my mom meeting him up at the mansion, and my mom, had everybody there in lingerie and pajamas and everything. I did everything to copy what he did, right? But my mom was in a beautiful gold sari, and she came and she's meeting him, and they have it all on film with that. And it was her highlight. She and her best friend that was there too. They were all in the paper when they got back home and everything, that, showing that
she's famous. It was like her moment of fame. I love it.
That's exactly it. So
funny. That's cool.
And we always talk about how he was thoughtful like that. He really wondered, who's the mother to this amazing, I'm sure he respected everything you were doing.
And that's where I felt truly blessed, because, of course he's got his own friends and what he does with. So people would, you hanging out with him? I go, no, I tell him the truth, but he would afford that respect, and he appreciated what I did. And if I asked for like something to be signed that we could do it for charity, unequivocally, he just automatically did it for us and took care of it. And he'd always say, "Yeah, have him come see me and I'll take care of him." And I would go up there and he'd sign different things.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm happy that you said that, because we have spoken a lot about Hef's philanthropic endeavors, which were vast and many. And I didn't know that he was that involved with philanthropy when we started the podcast. And so that completely makes sense. Anything that's going to charity is going to be like, of course he would do it for you. He was such a believer in that and giving back. And he was a part of so many incredible foundations.
About it. There's so many.
No, never did. And he would just do that. And really that would be our biggest, that would be the biggest moneymaker for the charity, something that he endorsed, signed, or did anything with. Yeah. And you know Victoria Fuller well, right? And I would have Victoria bring her artwork and everything there too. And then we would work something where she would have a piece of artwork and he would sign it, and then that would go for auction and things like that. And so that we would generate, funds for the charity that way too.
Nice. So you had a good run. I mean, 14 years is a long time to be doing that. I had no idea it went that long. I was surprised when you had sent that to me. So that would have been right around the time was that like when Playboy was sold in 2014 and it changed hands? Okay.
Yeah. I had issues when that all happened. And when it really wouldn't have, he was getting out of it. And then, that it was really an investment firm that came in, and then they had hired let's just say a consulting firm to help run it. Well, they almost ran it into the ground, really, is what happened. And they were all gone after 6 months. They were all gone, fired. They all left it. And so, yes, that was at the point that it just wasn't the same. So
definitely. It's so sad, to see what happened to Playboy today. Yeah. It's mind-blowing.
Really is, because you just, even if I even look at and I never mean to say this in the wrong way, the difference in Playmates from the time that they came and had it in there, it's so different. It doesn't equal like what we all were. Like it was so baffling.
We always say that Playboy, as Hef's vision went, and as his, as we all do, we're only going to be on this planet so long. He was just a visionary, and I don't think anyone will ever be able to ever do what he did. He was unique that way.
Right.
And I think that's where there was only one. Yeah. No matter what you could try to do around that, it really became quite apparent that in sometimes in just life's history, there's only one that can do that.
Yes.
And be that way. That's how iconic it was.
Yes, absolutely.
And I was just so fortunate for that time and frame that, like, I had such a unique relationship. Like, and the biggest thing, and this is what I should always emphasize, he entrusted me like nobody had that relationship with the Playmates really outside of that company besides Hef. And I always say to myself, because he gave me carte blanche to go anywhere, everywhere, because he trusted that I would watch it as if it was, I don't mean to sound old, but like my daughters, you know what I mean? Like it would be like that I'm going to be that protective of it. And that's what made me feel really the best at that point.
Yeah, that completely makes sense.
I have a hard time understanding that side of Playboy as well, because it really was a business, and you had a business relationship, but it wasn't. I always saw it as a job, even working, for the Playboy Golf tournament. I took it seriously, and and he was very protective of us.
Right.
And I could read character, he knew who was a person of character or a sleazebag. And people always think of Playboy, oh, well, of course he was a sleazebag. I hate when they say that. I'm like,
drive me crazy.
It was class. We had class. All the girls I ever worked with were class acts, especially if they were working for something like for some you. And he could see that in you. And I think it's really special that you recognized that. And it's fun looking back at these things because, it was a world like no other. And these girls, like you said, they really drew attention. It was iconic. I mean, there was nothing like Playmates. It was kind of a special thrill. And so I really loved it, but he was very protective. He wouldn't just be like free reign. I trust that you're going to do things, because we always had security detail. We always had someone right there, like you were saying, echo Pat Lacey, and in trouble because you were drinking on the job. Don't do that, always having someone following us and making sure we're in line and acting like, well, Pat Lacey was always, you better act like a lady.
Yeah. You better represent the Playmate status.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, she did that to you guys all the time. I was like, sometimes I feel so bad.
What wardrobe, she would fix things. She would come over and or tell you, you need to go do this right now and fix this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I worked hard also to give the girls different opportunities. Like I would put them on the microphone to talk to the audience. And then I would put them on video camera. Like they would do all, B-roll footage and all kinds of different things I wanted them to be prepared because, the career, how long can it go? 10 years, whatever, but like to prepare for the future. Right. So I got them doing interviews with other people and trying to get them to do all these kinds of things. So they used our golf event as also to practice for like advertisers and sponsors when they had to go to events because they knew I would take the time to work with them. Well, I remember when Lacey, one day she goes, I need you to do me a favor, AJ. She had a Playmate out and she made me like tell her if the girl was too heavy or not, like in the bunny outfit. And I'm like, Lacey, please don't do this to me.
Put me in this.
Please don't put me in this spot. I'm not going to do it. I was like, oh my God, I was in panic mode. The ironic thing, and I won't say what the word, I just remember when she came out, I go, my God, that Lacey's right. It doesn't quite look right. And I was like,
We're good.
My God, she begged it. She knew. She
called it.
Out. Yeah, she called it. I was like, I'm not going to say anything. I can't do it. I can't do it. But she was right.
That was funny.
Yeah.
You're like, please. I don't want to.
She did. That's right after, right there was all those years.
And what we were just talking about in terms of Corinna, what Corinna was just saying is that, we were always so taken care of and looked after. And that goes all the way back to the beginning of like the bunnies and the clubs. I mean, there was all of these rules and bylaws and guidelines that you had to and in terms of how you present yourself and, what was entailed in working in the club and, the security that was there to look out for you. And I mean, if any client or if any customer and a fan or anybody at the mansion, if they ever messed with any one of us, they were like kicked out immediately, like unwillingly being touched or like messed with or whatever. It's like, and it didn't matter if you were like Hef's good friend, if you were a celebrity, whatever, like he had no time for that. And he did not condone that. And it was like a swift reaction of like, you're not coming back.
Right. No, it's so true. And all of this, some of these things that they say about what happens at the mansion, I used to go, listen to me. He'd have a list that he'd want to come to my party. And I had security and I would investigate like to make sure, because I didn't want any issues with the girls when we did. I wanted everybody to have the greatest time. And if I said, hey, we prefer him not to come, like if he had somebody, because there was just an entourage of people that would ask him, could they go to the party? He's not looking at every single one.
Right.
But if we told him no, he would always honor that. Like he wouldn't, he knew that the security at the mansion and the fact that the Playmates always, have, and it's not just protected, like it's more of, this is a brand. They have a job to do. And their security is paramount to the company to make sure that, because they represent the company, and so
that's a good way to say that it was paramount to the company. Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
Now, AJ, is there a particular golf tournament that you put together that just stands out in your mind for maybe something that happened that was, whether it's good or bad, maybe a real crazy?
Oh, I had so many. I was just thinking of one though to share with your audience and everything too. So I remember we were out in Lake Tahoe. Okay. And so it was with a casino. We had an event and I always wanted the girls to have fun. I didn't drink, right? So I could sit there and keep an eye on things and make sure that, everyone, because I want them to have a good time. Because like I say, if they're having a good time, my entire clientele is having a good time. But we're partying. And I mean, I can tell that it was like Jennifer Walcott, Stephanie Heinrich, Stacy Fusen, and Carol Wakeland. So I had a mix of years, right? And they were the main hostesses, and we're out at night, and we're at their party and everything in the club. And Terry Harrison was there. Terry, yeah.
Okay.
And
Wow.
Terry and Jennifer had a competition going. And it was so funny. They would always try to outdo each other.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They would do things. And here we are in the middle of this casino, and they're dancing on the stage. And Jennifer she is doing some kind of dance that I never seen. And she fell. Yeah. And extensions. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff, like, about it. But the extension cut her scalp, like, she was bleeding.
My gosh. Wow.
And so we had the event the next day. And so we're like, she doesn't feel a thing. Like, we're going to the hospital, and we're not going to say one word, because they all would have gotten in trouble, right? It wouldn't have been me. They would have known who was the instigator, right? And so we're in the middle of nowhere. We take him to the emergency room, and Jennifer is going in to get stitched up. Okay? And now, remember, this is in the emergency room. Stacy's inside thinking Jennifer's going to die. And she's a hypochondriac anyway. So she'd be like, she's going to die. She's going to die. Terry's so drunk in the emergency room. She's looking at me, and she's pulling her shirt down and flashing. And I'm going, put those away. And there's people in there, right? And they were drunk. There was a couple of drunk guys and Carol Wakeland is dancing in the emergency room circles around these drunk people. And I told everybody, if anybody says anything to Lacey out of any of you, I'm going to make you disappear, right? And so Lacey never found out. And they all got up the next morning. We had an early, like 7:30 start. And we're up with the 4 or 5 in the morning. Everybody got up, was looking, because you have to get ready and make up and all that, all kinds. And everybody was ready to go. And we're like, and nobody spilled the beans the entire, like, I waited for like 6 months going, who's going to say something?
You're going to get that call.
I'm going to get that call. And nobody.
Pros, even if we party.
Professional.
There's the Army Rangers, the Navy SEALs. I used to
That's exactly it.
There's the Playboy Playmates.
It's exactly it. Oh
my God, that's so funny.
We would be in places. I remember we were in Traverse City, Michigan. I'll never forget this. Stephanie Heinrich, we're in a limo driving, and we're driving down. Her, and I'm trying to remember the other place. Julie McCullough was there. And she's going, I'm going to teach you young girls a few things or two, right, Julie? And Stephanie gets out the sunroof. And Traverse City is a beautiful city where they have like the cherry picking capital of the world or whatever. And she's flashing, going right down the middle of the road. Just like the limo driver, I'm going, oh, we're never going to hear the end of this. And we get to the hotel, and they proceeded to find whipped cream everywhere and sprayed it. Had a whipped cream fight. And I'm like, this is going to cost a fortune. But a young guy he was so mesmerized by the fact that in his lobby were like 6 Playmates or whatever. He said, I'll take care of everything. And it looked like the place was spotless. The next, like he had cleaned everything all up, and we took his picture with him, and and signed stuff for
it. Yeah,
it was worth it.
It was worth it.
It was worth it.
Oh, it's like fantasy come true.
We'd be out and
ask people about that,
And like I say, I used to, always have a drink because I was there. I could watch over them and make sure nothing would happen. But because that little buzz was going, they could do some things that I don't know how we survive sometimes, really. Like, it's unbelievable.
You know that when you said Jennifer Wolcott, she was so much fun to work with. I always loved working with Jennifer. She was a wild child and just like the most perfect body. Like she was so little and she was just ripped and she was just
ripped. You're right. She was in shape.
She was in really good shape. And so it was the 50th anniversary for Playboy and we were all in New York and we were staying at, I forget which hotel it was, but, Jennifer went and pulled the fire alarm on our floor. OMG.
No, wait.
Lacey was but a year.
It was the 50th. She has a thing for fire alarms.
Yeah. Does she?
Yes.
Funny.
Who knew? So
Wait, were you in Boston with me? She pulled it there.
Okay.
The fire alarm, and we had Red Sox players with us, everything. And she pulled the fire alarm, and I had to sneak them out the back, get them out of there, because I go, they're going to know it's you. Let's go. Let's get out of here. And then she got in a fight with like Johnny Damon's girlfriend out in the, and then they were pouring champagne with all over my wife. They were dancing with her and pouring champagne and I think licking the champagne off of her. I think my poor wife was, with them over there, and she did it all the time. She had a thing for fire. She's pulling it.
Yeah. I don't think Lacey found out who did it either. I think we all were like hush hush on it. We were like, I'm not going to say.
What year was that, Echo? What year was that?
Well, so the 60th anniversary was in 2014, I believe. So 2004, maybe. Yeah, I got to dress as the Jet Bunny, and again, I didn't even know that they had Jet Bunnies. That was like
Jet Bunny here in Vegas at one of the events.
Were you? Yeah, it was so cool.
I love that costume.
I know. I auctioned mine off. I wish I would have kept that.
Oh, they let you keep it? I didn't even get to keep mine.
Yeah, we all kept it. We had those beautiful scarves and everything. Yeah,
that's what Lacey was. She was a Jet Bunny.
Yeah. She was everything bunny. Yeah. She was Jet Bunny. She was Club Bunny. She was Training Bunny, International Training. I mean, and then, and I mean, the constant bunny mom. I mean, so 55 years is how long Lacey was at that company. And she takes the cake for the longest running employee.
She ever tell you the story? I don't know if I should repeat this story, but she told the story when Hep was on the airplane. Did she ever tell you this about, like, Hef had a button of, like, you could come in or you can't come in if he was back there with somebody?
I think so, but...
So, I think it was with Barbie Benton. I'm like, okay. I don't know if I should stay.
Go ahead.
I almost fell off. I was laughing so hard. But he had instructions. Don't anybody bother us. Like, we need some time. And so that there was a button thing that they had, green light, red light or something. She was telling the story. I guess Hef was back there with her and had a ball that in his mouth, but he started choking.
My God.
And he's hitting the button and nobody's paying attention to it because he had instructions. Don't anybody interrupt.
Oh,
right? Yes. And he almost choked. They actually finally came in because they were like, what should we do? What should we do? Right? And he realized he was choking and they had to get him out, but he had instructions not to go. But when Lacey told me that story, I go, this is going to be one of the funniest things I've ever heard because he almost died.
Arnold. Yeah.
Oh,
cool. What a cool story. Thanks for sharing.
Well,
yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Never. That's awesome.
I mean, for me, I've had, not only, hearing all that funny stuff too, but I've had such cherished moments like, I walked Stephanie Glasson down the aisle when she got married. I gave her away. And Jennifer Pershing's wedding, I officiated the wedding.
And it's so fun that Corinna and I and Brian and Victoria are now doing their podcast too. And just reuniting with everybody, AJ, has just been, gosh, just so fulfilling. And then also we've met a lot of people that we never had like met or had worked with from the Chicago offices, like going back into the 70s.
You guys interviewed Arnie, right? Arnie Fraser.
That's been the consistent, just good humans. So, just people that are really, just really solid character, honorable people.
There were a lot of great people there. I was truly fortunate to meet him. And like Arnie is one, and with Victoria and what she's been trying to do. I always chime in when Victoria, and if some of the girls on, I'll try to remember to get right on that, on their, and so then I'll throw a story or two about whoever the playmate is. I'll have a story or two about them. And they're always like, what's she going to say about me?
Is he going to pull out? One of my, a quote that just came to mind was from Jim Peterson, who was the Playboy advisor, right? And worked in Chicago for, close to 30 years, I want to say. He was one of our first interviews in the first season, and one of my favorites because it was just fascinating. It was just that time as a sexual revolution, and just how he even, came to work at Playboy and the freedom that he had and whatnot. But he said it was like going to work every day at a college campus. And it was so exciting. And it was like, what's going to happen today? And what are we going to create today? And it's like everybody just loved working there and being there. And it's a testament to the company, because at the end of the day, when you talk to people, there's people that were there for decades. Very rare was somebody there just for a couple of years,
Yeah.
like Pat, like 55 years, other people 20, 30. It's wild.
You hit on it. You know what's so amazing? And sometimes I always say sometimes Playboy was run, like in the eyes of people, it was a huge corporation, right?
Yeah.
But the reality of it was sometimes run like a dysfunctional family, like in the sense,
right?
Yeah. And what happened was there were a lot of people who got nervous. They get worried about getting fired at Playboy. Hef never fired anybody.
Mm-mm.
You guys had interviewed Bill Farley.
Of course, yeah.
When I first came there, Bill was instrumental in helping me just figuring out like how to get around and stuff.
I believe that.
He helped me tremendously.
Yeah, he was a vital component of that company. I think he was there for 30 years. Something.
And he didn't act like he was a big show. He always took the time to like offer and say, hey, AJ, try this person or contact this one and so forth. And
he was actually really helpful. He was a great resource when I first started doing my research and conducting interviews. And he gave me names and numbers of so many people to talk to that I would have had no idea about. He was a huge resource in that regard. So yeah, that makes sense. And because of that, we've met all these people that we would have never met, and their stories are fascinating because they're going back into the 60s and the 70s. And it's just endless, the history.
Like to your point of him never firing anyone, he delegated the right jobs to the right people. We always talk about that he knew who to put, each player where they went on the team. And so I don't think that it was an issue, because he was a very good judge of character and recognizing people's talents and abilities.
I think you hit it right on the mark. His ability to recognize talent was like if you just think about people that wrote for him, and you know what I was always amazed? I talked to him about this one time about how do you recognize that potential in a woman like that's going to pop in the magazine, right? Like, because like you guys don't age. Like I'm looking at you two, like I'm like, this is what Hef is able to do, right? Like it's just incredible. But when I used to sit there and go, how does he all of a sudden look at images and say, this is the one that's going to be in the centerfold? I'd sit there and I realized that we were at a golf tournament and one of the girls, one of the playmates, and I looked at all the photos, right? There wasn't a bad photo of her. I was like, my God, this is how, like, he can see how photogenic a woman is way beyond like somebody's ability to see that. And I was stunned at that, like and like Marilyn used to do the same, like they'd be able to pick the girl from just several photos.
It's a gift. Yeah. From personal experience, I cried when I saw my photos because I didn't ever think I was beautiful at all. I just didn't. And then in the images, also the photographers, that they knew how to capture these
It's
women.
unbelievable.
And I remember crying when I thought, I did not know that's what I looked like. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if that sounds conceited, but I felt like for the first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I look, of course I was a baby too, but I'm like, I look beautiful. I cried. I was like, this is me. Because, I think also he could see things that we couldn't see as playmates.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. I was stunned at that. I used to ask him, how do you do this?
Yeah, Pam Anderson, I've heard her say it just recently that it gave her confidence she didn't know she had. It's so true. It's like, wait a minute. Wow. I have this. So he gave us all kind of a gift in our own right.
That's why I believed in that. The girl next door could be appearing in that centerfold. Like to me, that was a tremendous concept. Like you wouldn't know that. You might be sitting at a counter next to her and she could be attractive, but that same girl in the magazine.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. He certainly knew how to choose them. That's for sure.
No, you never you treat people like humans. We used to have so many girls that wanted to become playmates, and you'd always have, you don't want to be kind, and knowing the fact that, listen, there's only going to be 12 a year, number one, right? So that's how special that is, right? Out of the thousands and thousands, that there's only going to be 12, right? But I was very fortunate with our golf event so that women could have fun together. It was a huge deal for me. Because I always knew if you have women having fun, guys will always have fun.
Yeah.
They
so you probably brought a lot of women that became fans of Playboy, because a lot of women they think a playmate might be a certain thing. So I'm sure at your event, there were a lot of, successful women that thought, well, these girls aren't what I thought. I'm sure you opened a lot of people's eyes with that event.
That's exactly it.
That's so.
Corinna, you hit it right on the mark. That was absolutely the truth. That it put them to be able to see that they're human beings. It's not stuck up. That they're real people that have fun. That will be, go out and have fun with you, and that was something I really pride in. That so many girls started following Playboy through us. They were the biggest fans of it. They were the biggest fans of the Playmates. To this day, still are.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a big female base that are fans, and I love that. I appreciate it. And again, just feel like so blessed that we had that moment in time. There's very few of us, and we were hand selected by Hef.
And truly special.
To have been part of your golf tournaments. I'm glad I only did a few, and here in Vegas at probably the beginning, but I'm so grateful for that opportunity. So I want to tell you thanks, AJ. I had fun. Few words describe who Hugh Hefner was to you. And if there's anything that you could have said to him, because we're also using this kind of as a memorial, because we didn't get to go to his memorial service. What message would you give?
Well, for me, I would want to have the ability to thank him for changing my life, right? Because, and it really would be from the sincere part that my life was changed, right? Because of him, because he allowed it. it was a business deal and all that. But I never want people ever to forget the fact that it's because of him that the opportunity existed.
Mhm.
Right. And those were the greatest moments. And really in my life, it was, you know what? He gave me the job that every man wanted. Right. I had the greatest job in the world. Golf, women, celebrities. And I did that with the belief that I would represent him right at all times. That I would represent him right at all times. And we wouldn't
That's
stand for anything less than that.
all consensus when people say when we ask what would you say, and they all just say like, thank you. Thank you for including me on this journey. Thank you for what you did to my life, all of that.
Yeah.
All right. So then 3 words that define Hugh Hefner to you.
Well, I'll use from a male perspective, iconic, kind, trying to describe the words. It would be a mentor. And even though it wasn't as personal, he would take the time to answer questions for me.
Wow, we haven't heard that one. Mentor.
No, we haven't.
That's from a business. That's from a business perspective.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful.
I mean, that's fair. That's a huge compliment. I love that you said mentor. Absolutely. Because I think all of us have that sort of, feeling in some regard that he absolutely was a mentor.
100%.
Like we all learned so much from him. Everything that I'm doing today is a direct reflection of Playboy and what I learned from that company, my business acumen. I mean, everything. So yeah, that's a good one. AJ.
Thank you so much, AJ. Thanks.
My pleasure.
So
So good to see you guys.
So good
Yeah,
to see
it's
you.
a joy.
And I'll do
Len.
anything for you anytime. You just give a shout out.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Bunny Chronicles Podcast. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, also Bunny Chronicles Podcast. And just stay tuned. We have a lot of great new things coming up for you, or interviews rather. Okay. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Love you guys. Take care.